Hey, the heat is gone.
Here too, at least for a few days anyway.
It feels good, doesn't it?
After several days of 105, yes, it does.
I'm not even looking the fact that after a week it's going to come back. Go ahead and start the podcast.
Welcome to the Garden Angelus, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I garden 1.5 acres out of 7.5 acres out in the country.
And I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
We call ourselves Garden Angelus because we are advanced gardening. We love gardening and we want you to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to spill the beans and tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of who, what, when, where. Let's move on to this week's episode. Hello, Dee.
Hello, Carol. How does your garden grow?
Dee, my garden grows hot, but thankfully it appears, as we said in the teaser, that it's going to be cool the rest of the week, I think. So fingers crossed.
Mhm.
I have picked green beans. I have picked cherry tomatoes, squash, peppers. I watered, I mowed. I even managed one day to do a little bit of weeding and deadheading early before it got hot. How about your garden?
My garden is doing okay. I mean, it's been 105 for 3 weeks, between 100 and 105.
That's
So,
odd.
as you can imagine, that's pretty hot. And I haven't worked in it as much as I should have. So, it's pretty weedy with weeds, but they don't grow as fast at 105. But let's talk about positives. I ordered some garlic and some shallot seeds. I also bought some zinnia seeds because right now, all of the flower farmers that are on Instagram are showing these beautiful combinations of zinnias. And I have one in mind in particular that I'm going to do next year. I also ordered some bulbs, partly because Eden Brothers had the most beautiful bulb tulips ever. And I ordered 2 Valentine roses from Antique Rose Emporium. And I have 2 coming from Grace Roses too. So I'm going to grow those in pots around the potager.
You're
Why are you
keeping the
laughing?
economy going.
I was being very busy. I was very busy. I also went to a Ladybug Lane flower farm and it just filled up my tank.
I saw your Instagram. You look so happy.
I was so happy. She only lives 17 minutes from me and she has so many flowers. And we actually went to a U-Pick on Saturday I did it with Megan and Maddie. So I've been there twice this week and it just really helped my gardening mood.
Cool. So what's your favorite this week?
Oh, mine? Oh, it'd have to be my garlic. I'm in love with that hardneck variety. And for the life of me, I don't know which one it is. But as you know, you can't buy hardneck at the supermarket because it doesn't last as long. And it's just so good this year that I actually ordered some garlic. So there you go. I'm going to grow it again because I think I've figured out the secret to garlic. It needs fertilizer.
And you're going to keep notes this year so that if you like it, you'll know what to plant next year, right?
I mean, I think I'd like any hardneck variety, but yes. Yeah, sure, I will. I looked on my blog. I looked on my orders. I couldn't find it anywhere. So the cool thing is you can grow something that you can't get at the store.
Very nice. Speaking of can't get at the store, my favorite this week is my little Bernardia japonica is blooming. And that's a pass along
Yeah.
plant that I got from Elizabeth Lawrence's garden, 2015.
Right?
I carried that little potted bulb to the Outer Banks on vacation, brought it home, planted it. And over the last 8 years, it's slowly spread. I have a good sized bunch. So I actually might dig a little bit of it and move it around. But Dan Andra has seeds, which she says are for advanced people. And Alpine Arrowhead Nursery has the bulbs. That's my favorite.
I think I would buy the bulbs. When she says for advanced people, it doesn't apply to me on seed starting.
No,
Nan's advanced and my advanced are very different.
Yeah. I think it would take a couple of years just to get the things to germinate. But
yeah, not doing that. So why don't you do the first quote?
It isn't what we think or say that defines us. It is what we do. And that is the author, Jane Austen.
And I couldn't agree more. Actions, not words. Although use nice words with people too. So our flowers this week, coincidentally, It has nothing to do with my flower farm visit. I thought about this 2 weeks ago when I was looking at those tulip bulbs on Eden Brothers.
Yes. And
Ready? Are
so
you going to say what it is?
our topic is how flower farmers have changed every aspect of flower growing these days.
Right. So while I was on Eden Brothers, I ordered Hawaiian Sunset mixed tulips and Merlot Melody mix. That's the two I ordered. And they're doubles and they're big and blousy. And the Merlot mix is this wine and red and purple, dark purple, just really cool colors. We used to be able to get Red Emperor back in the day. Remember, we could get Red Emperor, Princess Irene, orange, whatever.
Right.
No, these are the stuff tulips or tulip dreams are made of. But and I think I'm going to grow them. I'm thinking about growing them in metal baskets, but I actually am going to definitely put them in plant skid. We should explain what plant skid is. It's this powdery stuff that you put on your plants, and I can't remember if you make it liquid before, but anyway, it stinks. And I used to not be able to use it because of my hound dog, but I don't have my hound dog. And so I can use it now, and it keeps critters away.
Yeah, a lot of people will mix plant skid in with the soil when they plant their bulbs, and it does help keep squirrels from digging around and pulling out your bulbs. And then when the foliage comes up, then they spray it with plant skid to keep rabbits from eating it.
Okay, in our place, we actually roll the bulbs around in it to keep voles from eating it because we have a real problem with
Same
voles
deal.
here.
Same deal.
But this also ties in later with my visit that I did. And I actually interviewed Jennifer Hussman from Ladybug Lane Flower Farm about what she thinks about flower farmers and what they have done to change things. And it also ties into bridal stuff. And my youngest daughter is getting married in October. So that's why I called Jennifer, because I knew she lived close and we needed to have a wedding bouquet for October 7th and a few other flowers. And she said, yeah, we can make that happen, which kind of surprised me. But they can pull from lots of different farms and make it happen. So I want to look at my interview real quick. Why don't you talk about Modern Farmer while I look at it?
Well, while you look at that, I mean, obviously we follow Florette Farms on Instagram, and she's done amazing stuff with dahlia breeding. And then you're following zinnia flower growers who are doing amazing stuff with flower zinnia breeding. So
sure,
they aren't just like growing amazing stuff. They're making the seeds available and changing the varieties that we can grow, which is wonderful.
It is wonderful. Okay, so I've looked at this now. So one of the things that she has noticed since she's been a flower farmer is that she said that flower farmers were always able to get their hands on unique bulbs faster. They're just talking about bulbs, right? And unique varieties of seeds, because there are things that they could get wholesale that at the time we couldn't see. And she and I discussed how when they went on Instagram, that influenced people to want those to garden, to grow in their own gardens, right? And she said a lot of wholesalers right now are carrying wine tulip mixes, which is what my Merlot mix is. And then I asked her about her farm because it is very beautiful. And she's put up a lot of really beautiful pictures this last week. And she said she tries to plant her farm to be visually appealing with colors. And so she plants, one of the things she taught me was Benary's giant mix of seeds has different flowers in it than the separated out Benary's.
Oh, and we're talking about zinnias there, right?
She said they cross. We're talking about zinnias. They cross-pollinate. And we also talked about how Florette was really influential, but the biggest influencer in the beginning was Martha Stewart. Think about it. Martha Stewart did that bridal issue every year, and that's where Cafe au Lait dahlia became so hot for brides. And Jennifer laughed about that in a nice sort of way. And she said Cafe au Lait is a terrible flower to grow, and she would never grow it in a garden, that it should only be used in bouquets because it's just not a good flower. And then she also noted that we talked about how it's interesting that in Oklahoma or other hot places like the Midwest, your spring flowers tend to be more pastels. Think about
Yes.
that. I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
about that in my garden, but I wouldn't have thought about it. I mean, think about that. So that works with the brides, right?
Right.
And then in summer, it's hotter colors. And so she does CSAs, and her summer CSAs are much, much brighter colors. She calls them harder colors. And I said, well, that's because they have to stand up to our sunlight, summer sunlight. So those flowers developed that. We both agree that dahlias are hard to grow here. And she said that Florette lives in heaven.
Yeah, she lives.
Which is
Florette
true.
lives
Florette
in
does live in heaven.
She lives in more of the, I'll call it
Skagit Valley.
Yeah, it's made for growing flowers. The other thing that I was thinking about while you were talking about all that was something that has completely escaped my mind. So we'll have to just keep talking and I'll think of it.
Okay, so the other thing we discussed was how she thinks the other reason that a lot of these flowers are becoming more popular is because people are starting to like to buy local, not just with their fruits and vegetables, but also everything, right?
Right.
They like locers. Well, flower farmers can grow things that don't ship well. And a good example is Lysianthus, which I have never, ever seen blooming. It's actually a prairie flower, and she grows some beautiful Lysianthus. And Gomphrena is another one. Gomphrena would not ship well, but it is really, really good in vases, lasts a long time. There are just some things that I hadn't thought about it. So this has given me a whole new idea about my cut, some new ideas about my cut flower garden.
Yeah. And I noticed that
so did you think of what you wanted to say?
Well, yeah, I wanted to say that there's a big, I'll call it, it used to be Avon Perennial Gardens, but she's just changed it to Avon Gardens because she said when people were writing checks, nobody knew how to spell perennial. But I mean, she started out with beautiful flower beds all around her house, and it's evolved into a great wedding venue, party venue. And I noticed this summer she's got a lot of you pick days, so she must be growing cut flowers as well and telling people you can come and cut your own bouquet, which is what you did with your granddaughter.
Right. That's what we did on Saturday because she had an opening. And so Megan goes, I want to go. And I said, well, let's go. So we did. And I ended up creating another whole bouquet. In fact, we bought 3 bouquets, and you get a glass jar and you can fill it with flowers as you go. And then you can sit and arrange them, take pictures. It's a venue. And then they've been doing a lot of senior pictures out there. And then she's also going to do some arranging classes and stuff next year because she's building a big indoor place so that people can come indoors. It's just cool what flower farmers are doing. They do weddings. They do all kinds of things. So I just think it's an interesting area. And then I love what you saw in this Modern Farmer article because she and I discussed this topic too.
Yeah. So this came across my email, an email from Modern Farmer with their articles. And one of the articles was how American grown flowers have really not been able to compete since the 1990s because of some legislation and some trade agreements that made it cheaper to just get flowers flown up from South America. And so,
especially Ecuador and Colombia.
Yes.
Those 2 places in particular. And they don't treat their people well. You and I did a whole episode on that one time when we did Deborah Prinzing's book, her Slow Flowers book.
Right.
And we talked about that, why you should try to buy local because, well, for one thing, you want your workers to be treated better. And they get sprayed in the fields. And also the flowers, they have no scent. They're not, they're
pretty
like
plain.
Plastic.
Well, and that reminds me too, Amy Stewart, one of her first books was called Flower Confidential, which is all about the flower tray. So we should link
to both of those books. Yeah. One of the best books out there on this.
The other thing I was going to say, and I'm always reminded of this because I actually heard Deborah Prinzing talk about this at our art museum a couple of years ago. There's almost like nobody's growing carnations in the United States. There used to be a huge cut carnation trade. And the other thing is there used to be, remember, like, this is going to date me, Homecoming back in the 70s and probably in the 80s, mums. And a lot of those mums,
spider mums.
they are disappearing from the trade. And our friend Matt Mattis likes to grow those in his little greenhouse and keep some of these things alive. And maybe they'll come back and people will say, hey, I want a spider mum. I want a homecoming mum, like my mom used to have.
Yeah, I had one. Yes, and Matt grows them for competition. They actually, where he lives, they actually, not competition, but a show. So that's a really cool thing too.
Yeah. So we went from the 90s where they said almost every cut flower was American grown that was purchased in America to now we're at around 22%. And so these flower farmers and stuff, I mean, they're up in their game and the beautiful varieties.
Yeah.
That's got to go on the upswing.
I sure hope so, because we have a lot of flower farmers in Oklahoma. I had no idea. In fact, I'm thinking about pitching an article to someone about that. But just to really, I just can't say how much fun it is. Even if you have your own garden, even if it's an extensive garden, even if you have a cutting garden, the thing is, she has different flower farmers have different stuff from what I have. Does that make sense?
It does.
They grow more varieties of celosia. They grow, in fact, she had this gorgeous coxcomb type celosia, and it was yellow. It was a buttery yellow. Just the prettiest thing you ever saw. I know.
There's another thing.
Anyway,
I'll have to find her on Instagram, and I forget the name of the farm, but it's out there in the state of Washington where she has weather that's good enough to grow pansies year round. And this
oh my gosh,
flower grower has just fallen for pansies in a big way. And her Instagram is so many beautiful pansies.
That's cool.
Anyway.
Well, all of this flower stuff made me buy a whole bunch of zinnia seeds.
There
depending
you go.
on what you say.
I need to catch up with you.
Well, you've got till, February. You got time. Want me to do the next quote?
Please.
And then she realized she was replaceable in every area of her life except her home. So she invested her time, her energy, and her heart wisely. By Jillian Benfield. So this quote almost makes me cry. I devoted most of my life to my kids and my husband and my home. I was a career woman. And then I took off the pantyhose and put on blue jeans and started taking care of my children. And so I was deeply touched by that. I saw it somewhere. And then Jillian Benefield is an author, a journalist, a mother, a wife, and she writes a lot about finding joy in one's life despite the circumstances. And one of her children was born with special needs. And so they had to change their lifestyle. I think the child, and I can't remember his or her name, but the baby had Down syndrome, I think. And so their lives changed a great deal, and it made her look inward. And she wrote a lot of books. So I love that quote. So in the vegetables section, what are we talking about, Carol?
Well, I hope we can talk with as much enthusiasm about orb weavers, spiders, spideys, orb weavers. 'Tis the season.
It's that time of year. Yeah,
they come out.
That time of year.
They come out. There's one in my garden, and I'm like, I will not disturb you. You can have those few little cherry tomatoes that you got your little web on. Don't come out and don't talk to me, spider. You just do your thing.
Oh, do they kind of give you the willies? You seem like they do. Just
they kind of, the other morning I woke up. Of course I woke up. I opened the back door and there was like a little spider hanging there. It wasn't an orb weaver, but I'm thinking, okay, spider, this is not your place. This is where I come and go. So I had to move it out of the way. And so I just don't like them when they cross the path. It's like, don't cross the path, because I'm likely to forget and cremate your web. And then I'm like brushing myself over like a wild woman, hoping that you're not on me.
So, gang, she's a little bit scared of spiders.
I'm not afraid. I just don't like them on me. I don't like them on me.
Well, nobody likes them on you. Although right now the ants are driving me crazy, and the wasps, honestly. I have wasps in the eave of my house at the front door. And I'm like, don't come in the front door, because that eave is really tall. But back to orb weavers. They almost never, ever bite human beings. Like, never. And so they are beautiful, and I have one in my garden. I finally saw one today, and she's she's so smart. She's right over by the African blue basil where all those pollinators are
Oh,
coming
that's
and going, and she's on the
dinner
back side of
time.
them.
Dinner time.
Smart girl. So I saw her and I said, "Oh, you little smart girl, you." And I think I like them because I think they're very attractive spiders. The females, they're quite big, and I love their webs. I love everything about them. And what got me looking at them is Garden Obsessions is a couple that I follow on Instagram, and I'll link to their deal too. They just did a whole piece on how they bounce their webs when they're disturbed and talked about how you shouldn't be scared of them. And what I like to do is throw a stink bug into their webs and watch them kill it. It's really fun. They wrap it up real quick.
Oh,
I used to
yeah.
do that a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to help this one because she's got all the bugs she could ever want over there. And then I figure I've got them in a couple other places. My only thing is when they build a web across my path in the garden.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, you're right in my way. But you know what? Live and let live. I actually have a blog post on my blog about one that was pregnant, and it like freaked everybody out. So
you need to send me the link
I
for
love
that.
orb weavers. Okay, I will. I love them. I think they're wonderful. I love spider season. I hate wasp season. I'm just being real.
So with orb weavers, here's the thing: let them be. They are feed them stink bugs or any other harmful bug that you find. Just throw it at their web; they'll get it. They don't hurt nobody. They don't hurt nobody except those bugs that they eat. You're not going to get bitten by them, and so they're just part of the ecosystem. Let them be.
Let them be. And also the males, you'll hardly ever see those because they wander the world seeking their mate. Then they mate with the female and then they die. Not because Mrs. Right kills them, just because they die. So that's all. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of more about them, but they're just really cool. And we can link to this wonderful article at the Wildlife Heritage Foundation.
Okay. Can do, mildew.
I don't know if I want to be mildew.
Oh, okay. So they're prolific throughout in the entire continental United States, Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. So all 50 states get orb weavers.
Even Hawaii, which I don't know how that happened because Hawaii doesn't have a lot of things we have. And they have things we don't have because they're an island.
They probably came over on a ship with the missionaries.
Yeah,
anyway, I'll do the next quote. Here's the next quote. No person who can read is ever successful at cleaning out an attic. And that is Ann Landers. Do you remember I think there's still an Ann Landers column, isn't there?
There is, but it's, or Abby, or Dear Abby. They were sisters. They died a long time ago and somebody took it over. Yeah. I don't remember who.
I think like daughters or granddaughters or whatever have taken them over.
Probably.
Well, I wanted to say the point of that quote was,
go ahead.
People always used to have National Geographic magazines up in their attics because you never wanted to throw them away.
Yeah, because they seemed so book-like. In fact, people used to buy binders.
Anyway, now you can talk about the book.
So the book this week is My Vermont Table by Jazine Bullock Prado. And it's a cookbook. It is a celebration of Vermont. And she is the sister of Sandra Bullock, the actress. And at one time, she was an actress too. And one of the things I thought was interesting is that I actually saw on CBS Saturday morning, they did an interview with her, and I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to read the book. So I went to the library. It is worth owning if you can eat wheat. I cannot eat wheat. So a lot of her recipes won't work for me because she uses some things that I can't use. But she grew up in Salzburg and Vienna and California and Washington, D.C. And she said she never felt at home until she met her husband and moved to Vermont. And she said even though she was born in Washington, she said the Vermont people, Vermonters, I think is what they're called, that they are her people because she likes to forage. So maple syrup is used a lot in her recipes. She likes to grind her own flour. she likes to do different interesting things, like lots of hands-on food making.
Yes, I do know
I
what you mean.
So, and some of these recipes I really enjoyed because some of them were German. My family has a lot of German ancestry and Irish ancestry, and she has a lot of German recipes, which remind me of my grandparents. And then on top of that, she has everything listed according to season, which I'm always in for a seasonal cookbook. She makes a lot of cakes, a lot of breads, and some salads, and she's rail thin, and I don't know how. If I ate like she did, as hearty as she does, I'd weigh 400 pounds.
Maybe she's chopping wood and stuff in Vermont.
Probably. And it's cold there. And if you get out, you burn more calories. So it's probably that too. She's also a big fan of Staub Dutch ovens, which they don't really call them Dutch ovens. They have a French name, but they're fabulous. I have a small one and I have a medium-sized one, and she does too. And mine are blue, and I don't know what color hers are, but she was a big fan of them. They hold heat really well, and you can grow lots of things. Grow. See, it's always thinking about flowers and food. You can cook a lot of things in them, and she does a lot of cooking in her oven, which I will not be doing this time of year. It's too hot. So that's my review. But there are some really beautiful recipes in here, and I'm showing one to Carol right now.
So that's My Vermont Table by Jazine Bullock Prado. All right, we'll link to it.
Cool. You want me to do the next quote?
Yes, please.
Oh, gosh, it's a big old long, most of a poem. All right, get ready, people. Great is the sun, and wide he goes through the empty heaven without repose. And in the blue and glowing days, more thick than rain, he showers his rays. Though closer still the blinds we pull to keep the shady parlor cool. Yet he will find a chink or two to slip his golden fingers through. That's Robert Louis Stevenson.
That was nice.
Reminds me of my grandmother's house.
Yeah, back in the day when it got hot.
Yeah.
People closed those blinds. You didn't want that heat coming in.
She did. She went around and closed all of her blinds.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're going to talk about our dirt.
So the dirt is there was an article in the New York Times about pressing flowers. It's Margaret Roach wrote about this. And I was pretty excited when I found it. And I said, D, can you send a GIF link to me? And you said, sure. And then you said, by the way, Carol, pressing flowers is not pounding flowers. And I'm like, I know.
It's not the same.
So
I don't know why pounding flowers freaks me out, but pressing flowers does not.
That is good.
In fact, I have some beautiful pressed flowers that Jennifer gave me this week. Okay, keep going.
So Margaret has some beautiful pressed flowers that her grandmother did. And so she reached out to this author, and it's all in the article. The book, by the way, came out in February, and it's out of print. I looked. It's called Pressing Plants. I think it's called Pressing Plants. We didn't even link to it. Anyway, two kinds of pressing. There's the kind where you have a specimen for scientific research, and then there's the kind you do for arts and craft projects. And she interviewed two different people. And then her podcast episode this week, which I listened to last night, is actually about the person who presses for scientific research. And those get put into herbariums. So then I had to look up herbariums a little bit. The biggest herbarium in North America is
This is sounding like a rabbit hole.
Well, kind of.
I'm just saying it's starting to sound like a rabbit hole, but keep going.
The biggest herbarium in North America is the New York Botanical Garden. They have over 7 million specimens. And then there's one at Kew Gardens in London, also over 7 million specimens. But what famous poet, this is a quiz for you, but the answer's right there. What famous poet kept her own personal herbarium?
I mean, I would have known anyway. It's Emily Dickinson.
Yeah, she had 424 specimens. Right? That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyway.
I'm not surprised because there's a book about her that I read, and it talked about her herbarium. She also did a lot of indoor plants, and she had a Victorian glass house that was attached to her house.
The dirt is pressing flowers. And no, that's not pounding. Yeah.
No, it's not. Your turn to do the quote.
May the stars carry your sadness away. May the flowers fill your heart with beauty. May hope forever wipe away your tears. And above all, may silence make you strong. And that is by Chief Dan George. And yes, he was actually the chief of a native tribe in British Columbia, born 1899 and died in 1981. I like that. That goes on a tea towel or a cross stitch.
I know, wasn't it beautiful? So, rabbit holes. Mine's simple. Guess what my rabbit hole was this week, Carol?
All those bulbs and flowers that you bought.
And flower farms. And thinking about how lucky we are. We have so many in Oklahoma. And I followed a bunch of new accounts on Instagram, and that was fun. And I don't know, it just gave me a lot of joy. That's my rabbit hole. Your turn. It was a little expensive. My joy was expensive this week.
Yeah. I feel like I had a busy week, and I feel like I was circling the edge of several rabbit holes. I went down the herbarium one earlier this morning. Today is Sunday, but I did enjoy, and I listened to these, or I watched these videos on YouTube by a guy named Jules Guide to London. And he does walks around London.
How do you find this stuff?
I don't know. He does walks around London and talks about different history and stuff.
Fun.
And sometimes I look at him and think, gosh, they've got graffiti and construction, and it could be any American city.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But sometimes, like today, his 90-year-old mother died a few weeks ago. And so he and his sister, who does a lot of sometimes she writes songs and sings for his videos. They did a sort of a tour of London where their mom used to take them when they were kids. And they went to Fortnum and Mason.
Oh, my tea place.
It was very, very neat.
Oh, I love Fortnum and Mason tea. It's my favorite.
They went there. Anyway, it was really sweet. They went back to all the gardens that she liked to take them to. And actually, their mother was an Italian immigrant who came to London, married their father somewhere along the way.
That's
but anyway,
lovely.
So it made me think about, what would a childhood reminisce tour be like for me and my siblings? And it was kind of sweet. So I'll link to that. It's just a sweet video.
That's nice.
And you might like Jules.
Oh, I think I would. I think I would like that a lot, actually. It'd be like my mowing videos, only walking. But I should walk as I watch them. So garden commissions. I'm going to, after another summer with no fruit, I am going to get rid of all but 2 of my citrus trees. And they get scale every winter in the greenhouse. I spend all of spring trying to deal with the scale. And I don't want them anymore. So I am going to keep the one that is the pink lemonade. It's one of those, it's the variegated one that has pink inside the lemon. I'm going to keep that one because that one's special. And I might keep my Meyer lemon, but the rest of them are going away because I hate them. And I've got to move that.
Now, Dee.
Oh, don't start. Don't tell me to keep them. Don't.
No. What I was going to say is, you told me you were throwing them away.
I did, and you said don't.
And I find out in August.
You said don't. So I gave them a reprieve, but I hate them. So they're going. They're out of here. In fact, they're going tomorrow. I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. And you don't believe me, do you?
Where are they going?
In my trash can.
I do believe you.
They got to go.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm going to work on my beds that are overgrown in weeds. And I'm still in the process of getting the soil conditioner compost on top of my potager, but I'm a little closer now. I've done one bed and I've got 3 more to do, but I got to weed one of them. One of them has some crabgrass. Yes, I do have weeds. People think I don't have weeds. You know I have weeds, right?
I got weeds too. Everybody's got weeds.
There's no way not to. I mean, my top 3 weeds are nutsedge, crabgrass right now. It's different at different times of the year. And Bermuda. I've got those 3 and and don't forget prostate spurge. It's everywhere too. That's it. That's all I got that are really bad.
Yeah.
It's that time of year. I'm going to pull weeds.
Prostate spurge here, which I call it Japanese spurge. I have crabgrass. Some other weeds that mulberry weed. Bad mulberry weed.
Oh my gosh, we'll never get rid of mulberry weed. I have it too. It's really bad. I hate it. So I'm going to be doing that. And that's why we recorded the podcast on Sunday afternoon, so that I could do it tomorrow when it's nice and cool. Your turn.
So the heat is gone, at least for a week. I looked and it's not going to be too bad. So I am going to do some weeding in the morning and just sort of kind of cleaning things up this last week of August. That's really it. I apparently need to get on the stick with ordering my bulbs and maybe some seeds. And none of the sunflower seeds are ready, but they will be. So that's what I'm going to do.
Are you going to save your Van Gogh?
I'm going to try to save some
seeds. I did.
So I went out today and I took a picture.
I did.
I took a picture of one that I sowed a little bit later. I wrote a blog post about it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, looks great. Then I got the ones that are hanging down, drying. Then I've got ones where it's just the stem and the seed head. Somebody's already taken it away. And I'm like, oh.
Somebody ate it. I had that happen too.
I need to put some bags around some of them to try to keep the critters from just taking them completely away. Or, all those sunflowers, I've got to have some to save because probably I've actually promised some to my nephew's wife too. So I got to save some.
Okay. You can do it. You'll save them.
All right. That's the week. Let's wrap this thing up. Thank you for listening to The Gardenangelist. I hope you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time.
And if you listen to Apple Podcasts, we love a 5-star review. That helps us get noticed by others. Could you also share our podcast with your friends? Word of mouth is still the best way to get the word out there.
And be sure and check out our show notes for links for more information about today's topics, plus links to our own websites.
And please subscribe to our Substack newsletter. I think it's one of the best things we do. The Garden Angelist at substack.com, also linked to in our show notes. If you do, you get a link to listen to the podcast a whole day early.
And if you want to help support us, use those affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we earn a small commission and it costs you nothing. Or you can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or make a one-time donation through PayPal.
And thank you to everyone who has done so. We really appreciate it. It was lovely to chat with all of you over the Garden Gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.